Hello viewers, welcome back to Edubbey Dynamic Solution. Today we'll be treating Cambridge assessment, their past question for February-March 2023 on business studies. We have to answer all questions according to the instruction above here. Now let's move to the question directly. Question 1A, we have to explain one advantage and one disadvantages to RW of using flow production. Of course, the RW here is the name of one company they are referring to, and here we have the flow production. I believe we know what flow production is before. Now we have to list out one advantage and one disadvantages, and of course we have to give the explanation for each advantage and disadvantage mentioned. The first advantages of using flow production is high output of a standard product. High output of a standard product. Let's try this out. High output of a standard or quality product. One advantage of using flow production is the high output of a standard product. Now, what is the explanation of this as advantage? Of course, we might not have to type all this explanation out due to our time, but I will explain this to you in words. Of course, when we use flow production, that is continuously producing a product, it can lead to potential increase in sales and possibly higher revenue and profit. Other advantages might also include more advanced technology that can be used. It can also allow purchasing economies of scale, that is bulk buying, which comes with discount and also time saved in moving goods around the company. Now let us pick a point also in the disadvantages of using flow production. One of the disadvantages of using flow production is also the reducing motivation for workers. That is, it reduces workers' motivation. Of course, while using flow production by a company, it might reduce the motivation for the worker. How? Because the work can be very repetitive for the employee, which by create less efficiency and make them leave. Some might leave the company. Other disadvantages we have is the high storage requirements, and also if we have machine break, the production might also be altered. Now, for example here now, when you are answering short question here regarding production, as I said earlier, we have factory products such as paint for wooden furniture manufacturers or more. So you have to put an application explanation in your explanation why you are answering the questions. Now let's see the next question we have here. We have 1B. The question B says, consider how the following three changes may affect RW, that is the above company, and which changes is likely to have the most effect on their revenue. And they ask you to justify your answer here. To answer this question, assuming these things were not listed below here, you have to list them out before giving your explanation or views on it. Now, the first one here, we have change in consumer taste and fashions. How does change in consumer taste and fashion affect the company's revenue? Of course, let's use an example of a factory product. As I said earlier, we have paint, furniture. We have increased demand. Let me type this out for better explanation. Increase in demand. Increase in demand for a product. What can actually lead to this increase in demand for a product due to changes in consumer taste and fashion? Of course, many products might be need to introduce to meet the changing in consumer needs, that which can also lead to an increase in cost, but it can also lead to the revenue of the company, because when they meet the consumer of the people, they will actually purchase more of their products. Now let's move to the increase in consumer income. How does this affect the RW company? Let us write this thing out. What consumer incomes does to RW company? Of course, it may result to an increased sales of the paint, as I mentioned the product early, which can also increase the demand for the products and also at the same time increase the revenue. Can also lead to lower sales revenue of the product from customers. Now let us write the salient points out here. It can increase, it may lead to what? It may lead to an increase in sales, and also to an increase in the RW's revenue. We have to reduce this to have our space here. Now let us drag it. Now it may lead to an increase in sales and also to an increase in the revenue of RW as the company. Now the third one is decrease in the price of the competitors' product. Of course, the products of the person that is also selling, that is the product of the company selling the same product as ours. Now, how does this affect the company? Of course, decrease in the price of the competitor product may lead to decreased sales of the product of RWs, and as the less price competitive will decrease revenue. But we have here, it can also, they might need to also reduce their price in order to remain competitive, within the market, Now, we have a space here for conclusion. What conclusion can you give the three changes, and how did they affect the company? We might not need to write this thing out, just listen to the explanation and put them down in your own understanding. Of course, the changes in taste and fashion are likely to have the most effect on revenue if the RW produce what consumer actually needs, and when they produce that, it will increase their revenue as the sales will increase. And also the increase in income will also have an effect, because customer will spend time, they will spend time buying what they need rather than going for what they did not. And the decrease in the price of the competitor product will also have an effect, if there is likely to be a decrease in demand for RW's product. This product that I'm mentioning, you can put your own factory products inside to get your full mark. Now let us move to the next question here. We have question 2A. Here, let us zoom in to see the exact question. As you can see, we have 2A. 2A question says we have to explain two possible problems of RW of the business growing. That is the business we are talking about. If RW's company wants to grow their business, what are the likely problems that they are going to face? As you can see, we have to mention it and also give an explanation for it. But due to our time here, in order not to waste much of our time, I will list them out and I will explain the explanation in words, not typing it out. Now, the problem one that we have here is the control. Larger business are more difficult to control. Why does larger business difficult to control? Why are they difficult to control according to this problem number one? Now we move to the explanation. Of course, when the business is growing, some employee may not feel part of the business and may not even work effectively, which can also lead to an average cost or increase unit, which can also lead to an average unit due to not seeing the person in authority. Now, what is the problem number two that we have here? Of course, we were told to just mention and explain the two possible problems of the business growing. Now, here, the second one I would like to mention here is poor communication. It may also lead to poor communication. Now let us do this thing to fit in. It may also lead to poor communication. Then how does this poor communication, how does this affect the RW company growing? Of course, instruction might not even get to the right person when the company is more large, and there might also be an error in work carried out, or the instruction might not even carried out correctly. Of course, those are not the two problems of business growing that we have. We still have problems in financing the expansion, poor commitment of the employee, and over expansion, that is, expand too quickly. You might also add to that, but make sure you answer exactly what they told you to do. Now let us move to the next question here. The next question here, we have question 2B. We have question B here. Now, using appendix 2 and other information, that is the one we explain now, business growing or establishing new business. Consider the three possible locations for RW's new factory. Which location should RW choose? Justify your answer. Using this appendix 2 information, is RW is establishing new factory. What possible location do you think can fit in for them? Now for location A, I will have to choose the nearest to the existing factory. Why? Nearest to the existing factory. How does this location, how is it a possibility location for RW? Of course, the factory will be so easier to move some existing workers across in order to train the new factory worker, and as you know, this will automatically reduce the lower cost in training the employee. Of course, they might also have it easier to access their customers and understand their preferences quicker to respond to, as there is also change in the taste and fashions. Now moving to location B, we still have more to that. Now moving up to location B, what type of location do you think RW can also choose in order to achieve the same as the existing factory? Of course, near port, near to the port. Let me add the text. Near, the location should be near to the port. How does this actually affect the location chosen by RW company? Of course, it will reduce the cost of transporting imported material, as 75% of raw material are imported, which make it easily accessible from ship in the port. Choosing location near to the port can also make it available locally. As I said, it will reduce the transport cost, and it will also give employment in the local area, which might actually lead to a lower wage rate paid. Now, what location C should we choose? Now, to choose another location for the business, we have to look for the cost of the land. That is lower cost of land. The lower cost of land is also considered when choosing the location, because it will reduce the capital required to start up the factory. And also at the same time, in the location C, we have to consider the government grant support, that is their power, if there is less reliable or there is power cut, it also has to be considered while choosing the location for RW new product. Now below here, you are to give the recommendation of all the location you just mentioned here. You might not write this out, just lis ten to the recommendation and make sure you explain it to your own understanding. Location A should be chosen because of what? It is near the existing factory. As I explained above, it will improve the communication from the manager or director to the employee. And the location B, it will also be choosing, as I said, 75% of raw material are imported to the manufacturing place. And also location C, choosing as the land and wages cost will be what? Will be low, and it will be near to the main market or city. Now we move to the next question here. We have question 3A. Question 3A says you should explain 4 legal control that may benefit an employee. Now we have the space for legal control 1 to 4. Before you answer this type of question, you have to list out the legal control before you give the explanation. The first legal control I would like to mention here is protection against unfair dismissal. Protection against unfair dismissal. Of course, how does this serve as a legal control? That is, how does it serve as a law guiding an employee? Of course, having protection against unfair dismissal, the employee will have security of employment whenever they are working. Now, I have legal control too. I have protection against discrimination too. Let's type that out. Protection against discrimination. Now let's drag to the legal control 2. Protection against discrimination means that is, employment are treated equally according to the law. That makes it a benefit to an employee. Now, moving to the legal control 3, we also have paying minimum wages according to the legal control. Let us type this out also. Paid minimum wages. Paid minimum wages. Legal minimum wages can also prevent strong employers exploiting their workers. Now let us drag this to the legal control 3. Now to the legal control 4, we also have the health and safety laws that protects against the injury at work. Health and safety. Health and safety. Now, how does this health and safety laws, how does it serve as a legal control that benefits employee? Of course, the employee will not get hurt while doing their work. Of course, we still have more legal control, but we were told to just mention 4 here. We have redundancy payment made. We have, as I mentioned, protection against discrimination. You can also be provided with an employment contract. Now let's move to the next question here. The question says, consider the advantages and disadvantages of 2 methods of training other than induction training, which IW could use for employee in the new factory they just established. Now, which of these 2 methods that we are going to mention here should IW choose? You have to mention them, explain them, and also justify your answer. One of the methods we have here is on-the-job training. On-the-job training. Now let us write the method out. On-the-job training. On-the-job training. Of course, on-the-job training is a training that took place within a person's work environment. And how does this method be an advantage to RW's company? Of course, it will ensure production of the products like furniture, paint, and help them to supply them to their shop at the same time when they are still learning the training. And it is also relatively cheap compared to off the job training, that is the one that is far away from the work environment. And also it also meets specific need of business training can be exact way the company wants the task to be carried out, since it is done within the company. Now we move to the method 2. The method 2 that we have is off-the-job training. Off-the-job training, as I just explained this now, the training that took place away from the work environment. Off the job training. Off the job training. Now, how does this off the job training affect RW company? Of course, a broad range of skill will be taught outside the company in order to produce more quality products for the company, and it often use expert trainers and also give better training to employees. And it is also considered the most up-to-date techniques because it is learned outside of the company. Now you were asked to put the recommendation here based on the method the RW is going to choose. On the job training may be better to choose. Why? Because it will allow workers to keep working at the same time as being trained, because when they are still training, they are still doing the company job, which will lead to they will produce output at the same time they are also receiving their training. While the off-the-job training may be better to choose because it will lead to higher quality training being given to the employee, because skill job on the flow production line and the employee needs to maintain the reputation of RW. You might not need to write this down. Listen to the recommendation and fit it to your own explanation or field. Now we move to question 4. Question 4 says we should explain 2 external benefits and 2 external costs from RW's factory. That is the new factory of RW. What are the external benefits and the external costs that you think comes out from RW company? Of course, the first external benefit is an improved infrastructure. Improved infrastructure. Now, how does this serve as an external benefit? Of course, it will help to ensure power supply within the company area if the location C that we choose above is used. And also we also have another external benefit, that is the job created. Let's write it out. The job created. Job created. How does this job created serve as an external benefit? Of course, in the local area from the building of the second factory, the job created there might be an external benefit to the company. That is not all we have on external benefit, but we are told to mention just 2. We also have road improved by government to aid increase traffic, and also tax that will be paid to the government. Now let's move to the external cost that we have for RW company. External costs can include pollution that can be caused by waste products. Pollution, the external cost we have pollution. Let's type this out before the explanation. Pollution that can be caused by waste of products. Now, another one that we have is noise from the construction of the new building. Noise from the building. From the new factory RW is developing. Noise from the new factory. It can also be an external cost to the company, not from the new factory. Let's fit this in. No, that is the second external cost. We also have increased road congestion in the local area as also the external cost. Now let us move to the next question we have, which says using appendix 3 and other information, consider whether the following forecasts are likely to be accurate after the new factory has been built. This is referring us to the question 3, that is where the RW is establishing new products. Now, what do you think? What opinion can you give to RW to achieve the revenue forecast of $20 million to $20 million? Of course, they likely to have increase. They likely to have increase because the new factory can increase the output of their product per year. This can actually increase, let's type it out. They can actually increase their output per year in order to increase the revenue and also lead to an increase in their revenue forecast increase in their revenue, increase in their output rather, increase in their output in order to increase the revenue. They can actually increase their output so that the revenue forecast can be met. That is just one point for them to achieve the revenue forecast. Another point is the price. They can also reduce the price of the products. Of course, reduction in the price can actually lead to an increase in demand of a particular product, and that when the price is reduced, they will automatically have an increase in sales. While we have the increase in sales, of course, the revenue will also lead to an increase. The number 2 here, we have how you can advise them on their cost of sales. Of course, the company can increase to $6 million cost of sales if there is no economies of scale. And also bulk buying discounts, if bulk buying discount is applied, can also increase by a smaller amount than $3 million due to purchasing economic of scale. The salient point here is bulk buying with discount. Of course, if the company is buying in bulk, it will also reduce their cost of sales per year. Now we move to the expenses forecast, which include the interest paid of $12 million. Now, how does this affect the RW company? Of course, they are likely to be higher than $12 million because there will be interest payments on the bank loan if they actually go for loan when establishing the new factory. And also higher set of costs may also rise the expenses above 12 million. Higher set up cost. Higher setup cost may also increase the expenses above 12 million in the first year after the factory has been built. Now, your conclusion regarding to this forecasting is that raw material is likely to achieve a profit of $2 million or more after the factory has been built, because the new factory will enable the RW company to increase output and revenue from the sales of their products, and at the same time they are not likely to achieve a profit of $2 million after the factory has been built, because they are unlikely to be able to double their sales in 1 year. Therefore, the revenue is unlikely to increase significantly. This brings us to the end of this year past question. To see more of this video, kindly subscribe.